Okay, so I wanted to jump forward out of order a little bit and talk about Principle 5 tonight, which is mental training is as important as physical training. I often say that the physical part is easy. In fact, I know it's easy. I've seen the physical stuff work so often when people follow the plan. What's much harder is getting people to trust themselves and to believe in themselves and to be kind to themselves. So I actually heard a story recently that illustrates the point so well. Our CEO at work has special needs twins. And DJ, one of the twins who needs the most support, also has medical issues, and sometimes they have to travel pretty long distances to get his care. And him and the CEO's wife, Meredith, went on one of these trips recently, and they were on their way home. And with DJ, you have to be pretty routine, and there's a place that they always stop on this trip for DJ to get a hot dog. DJ, I should say, I'm guessing he's 25 now, and he's a big guy. He's a man. Anyway, DJ got his hot dog, and they're back on the highway. And you can imagine what that's like, right? You're driving whatever highway speed is. DJ's eating his hot dog, and he finishes. And when he finishes his hot dog, he realizes that the cord to his iPod is stuck in his door. So without thinking, DJ opens the door to get the cord. The next thing that happens is DJ's foot is on the highway. And immediately after that, his knee is on the highway. And now, put yourself in Meredith's position in that moment. What she does, and Meredith is just like you and me, very normal in all the ways that we're normal. She reaches out with one hand while continuing to drive the car and pulls DJ back into the car. Now, obviously, he had a pretty badly scraped up knee, but otherwise he was uninjured. Now, think about the physical feat for an average person to grab 250 pounds with one arm, driving a car, moving at whatever, 60 miles an hour, and pulling that 250 pounds back into the car. And if you think about that accomplishment, and the moment that it was accomplished in, you realize that there was no thinking involved. There was no opportunity for Meredith to think, can I lift 250 pounds with one hand, with one arm? If she had time to think about it, doubt would have crept in. If you had asked her before it happened, could she do that? I'm sure her answer would have been no. Those kinds of stories, to me, illustrate as well as any other what we are capable of when we don't let our thoughts get in the way. So all the things that support the principle of mental training, I want to talk about them briefly. And the first one is really important to digest. Success is more likely to be achieved when we focus on the joy of running, put less pressure on ourselves, and love the process. I mean, I once interviewed a person for a column, and I was in the habit of asking the question, why do you run? Her response, I'll never forget, and I realized how true it was what she said is, running is as close to child's play as I can get. This is fun stuff. I go out at lunchtime and run, and I think of it as recess. And when I was in school, recess was the best time of the day. It was a break from the schoolwork. What we do here is pretty daggone fun, and there's a lot of people that can't do it. And there's a big part of you that does this because you love it, because you enjoy it. And focusing on that is maybe the number one thing you can do to actually ultimately reach your potential. Second, most runners place limits on themselves that are not real. I could expand that to say most people place limits on themselves that are not real. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with people that don't run, because there's a curiousness about us to a lot of people. You know, they don't necessarily understand the allure. They've not been attracted to it or experienced it. But very early in every one of those conversations, I hear one of these three words: can't, never, won't. And the first one is the one I hear most frequently. I could never do that, or I can't do that. And then there's always a because. Well, you're out here, so you know you can run, but I also know that oftentimes when you think of something that might be accomplished, the first thought that comes into your mind is, I can't do that. And when you do that, you're placing limits on yourselves that are usually not real. Second one, positive thinking must be practiced constantly to overcome self-imposed limitations. All of us have negative thoughts. All of us have limiting thoughts, negative chatter in our head. Those that are most successful deal with that chatter, recognizing it's there, embracing the emotion that leads to it, but then replacing it with something positive. When the first thought that you have is, I can't do something, replace it with something positive that could help you actually do it. One of the most amazing things I see in this group, and I like to sort of tell it this way, and I'll include me in this example. If any one of us worked through a season, worked really hard, and, well, let me just use myself. You saw me here working towards an objective, and on race day, I had a really bad day, and I fell way short of what I was trying to accomplish, what I had shared with you. What would your reaction be? Would you love me less?
Nope.
Would you respect me less?
Nope.
Would you say something negative about me?
Nope.
Okay, but put yourself in that situation and think about what you say to yourself. The truth is, we treat other people with more patience and more love than we treat ourselves. And one of the important components of reaching your potential is to be nice to yourself. And finally, the last one's a little more technical and practical, but great performance requires firm concentration that needs to be developed in training. There's a concept or a place in performance called flow that I'm going to spend some time talking about this season. It's really that magical situation where things are going so perfectly in a race or in anything that you're accomplishing that you're not even thinking about what you're doing. and you're performing perfectly. That flow state requires practice. It's really hard to get there, but it starts with concentrating on what you're doing. And practicing that in workouts by not thinking about what I have to do when I leave here, what my problems are, what I'm going to eat when this is over, or all kinds of things that you might be thinking about during the workout. When you do a workout, you should focus solely on the activity you're engaged in and practice it. Okay, so as we work through these principles and then come back to some other things that we'll work on as the season goes along, this is the principle that I'll spend the most time on, because it's usually the one you spend the least time on. And I constantly have to remind you about it. And next week, the reason I shuffled things up and brought this one up to talk about tonight is because this week and Tuesday is the first time for you to practice it this season. To recognize that what we're doing is fun. We're here because we enjoy it, and we can achieve something important for ourselves while we're having fun, while we're enjoying it. Practice positive self-talk. If a negative thought comes into your head between now and next Tuesday, replace it with something positive. You can't make emotion go away, but you can deal with it effectively, or more effectively. And recognize that we all appreciate you and value you, and nothing can happen here or on any race that can change that. What needs to change is how you treat yourself in those circumstances, whether they're good or bad results.